Hello, and welcome to episode 46 of 10,000 Stitches podcast, a weekly chit-chat all about the joys of sock knitting. My name is Andy, and it is warm here in Virginia today. Like, it's almost 80 degrees in my apartment, and it's October 30th. What's going on, weather? Anyway, if you wanted to find me on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry as Purlbug, P-U-R-L-B-U-G. You can find my blog at thepurlbug.com. And then we have the 10,000 Stitches podcast group on Ravelry. If you are looking for links to like shops or patterns or anything that I mention, you can find those. If you're watching this on the blog or on the Ravelry thread for this page, you can find everything just linked right below the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the description box below the video will be a link to the blog post for this episode. You can go there and then find all the links underneath the video. Like I said, it is Sunday, October 30th. This episode will go live on Tuesday, November 1st. I'm recording at almost 4:30 in the afternoon, so my light is fading, but I think it's still okay enough to be able to get things recorded. I apologize for any background noise. I do have the windows open because, like I said, it's about 80 degrees outside today, and I didn't want to run the air. And the dryer is also running, so you might hear that go off, and Wesley is not here right now. And I don't know when he's coming home, so you might also hear him come in. So, yeah, that's just how life goes. But I didn't make any notes today, so we're just going to wing it. But we're going to follow the normal format, so we'll do finished objects, works in progress, what's coming up next. We'll talk about the knit-along, question of the week, and then chit-chat. So, awesome. And I have a finished object this week. So, I don't know that I've shown these really at all, but these are my Perfect socks. So this was using Regia Perfect, bloop, in the color 07117. Right there. It's not going to focus on it. Whatever. So they look just like the picture on here. So basically, if you haven't seen this yarn before, the way this yarn is it's sort of meant to produce two identically colored striped socks. So I've used this yarn before. This is the first time that I actually used it sort of the way it was supposed to be used on the package. But basically the way that it works is you start out with this length of yellow yarn, which of course is out there, so I can't show you it. But there's a little bit of yellow yarn at the beginning. So you pull that out, you cut it off, and then right as soon as that yellow yarn ends, and it's really just like a couple yards, then this first color begins. So you cast on, whatever, and then according to the directions on the other side of the label, you're supposed to knit your ribbing for the cuff as long as the first color lasts. So I did that. And then you go through these stripes, and then as soon as it stops doing whatever it's doing, then you do your heels. So then I did a fish lips kiss heel, and then you knit the rest of your foot. And then you pull out whatever yarn is left over. So for me, it was like these little itty bitty balls about that big, like a gumball. And then there's some more yellow yarn that separates it, and then it starts all over again. So then you start your second sock, and you do your ribbing, your stripes, and then there's a little bit of yellow yarn at the very end, which I don't know why that is, but yeah. So yeah, I basically followed the directions exactly how you're supposed to, and came out with two identically striped socks. I mean, identically enough, they might not be identical to the row, but they are identical enough that, you can't tell that one's any different than the other. So yeah, I was pretty happy with this. This is the first time I've done a leg on a sock that is pretty much as long as the foot. I like them. I knit these on US size zeros, which is a 2mm needle, and it's a 72 stitch sock, so it's a very sturdy, rugged fabric. And I'm kind of excited for them, and I really just love these colors. I find them to be very sort of like retro, kind of in like the pastel, old sort of way that they look. So I'm super excited about these. So yeah, and the amount that I wound off at the end of each one, like I said, it was only about gumball sized, but I'm hoping that it might be enough to do like a contrasting heel or something if I need it later. So yeah, pretty cool. So that's my finished object. And then my work in progress, I'm still working on my striped socks. I showed this one last week. This is the half of the pair that's done. The other one, it's just a mess of yarn. So with the other one, I have finished the leg and the heel flap, and I'm working on the gusset right now. So as you can see, like doing socks this way, you are not going to get identical socks at all. But I really enjoy kind of the way the colors play off of each other, and just kind of watching the colors change with the stripes and everything. So yeah, I've really been having fun with these. However, it does just take a little bit more concentration to do them because I'm dealing with 2 separate balls of yarn. So this one will continue to just be kind of an at-home project that I'm going to try and get finished up this next week. But obviously I didn't make a ton of progress on it during the previous week just because life has gotten a little crazy lately. But I'm hoping to have it finished by the end of next week. So yeah, that's one work in progress. And then the other one, so as soon as I finished these, which I finished this morning, I wanted to start another like single skein, like single ball of yarn sock that I could take with me to leave at work. So that I'm using, these ones are using a Crazy Zauber ball in the colorway Frisch Fish. So then I had talked that I was going to use my Diversity, my Plymouth Yarns Diversity, to do a pair of socks for my good friend who's vegan, and this is what it looks like wound into a ball. And I had been planning on doing the Geek socks with this, but I've sort of decided not to do the Geek socks because someone kind of confirmed a fear that I had, and I forget who it was, but it was in the Ravelry thread, maybe for last episode, but they had mentioned that because of the way you do the Geek socks, like basically if you have no idea what I'm talking about, the pattern for the Geek socks makes like little ripples and it works with like a self-striping yarn. And so the way that you do that is you slip stitches whenever you have a color change. And so the person had said that, you know, it creates a not very stretchy sock because you're slipping all these stitches every time the color changes, which is something I had worried about, and I just decided, like, I don't want to get to the end of the leg and find out that it doesn't work. So I've decided not to do the Geek socks with these, and instead I'm going to do sort of a vanilla latte sort of sock where it's like garter ribbed on the top. So yeah, so I think I have one more row of ribbing left before I'm done with the ribbing, and then I'll just start the main body of the sock. But yeah, I like this Plymouth Yarns Diversity because it's like, in terms of non-wool yarns, I think it's a pretty good one. It's 93% acrylic, 7% like elastic. My problem with it is that it tends to not be very well made. I've made socks with this before. I made a pair of socks for my dad, if you've been around for a long, long time. And I think in that pair, I came across a knot or something like that, and then I came across like a section where it's like as if they had missed dyeing a section. And I've heard other people talk about this too, that like they've made stuff with this yarn and it just seems very poorly dyed. Like you'll have sections of white where it's not white because like other dye has leached onto there. So for me, I had started with purple, right? Because when I pulled out from the center, purple was the first color to come out. So I had gotten basically to the end of my ribbing and then hit a knot. And it was, you know, not continuous at all. It went from this pink that's on the outside here to white, which is now in the center of this ball. And I was like, are you kidding me? And it's just so frustrating that like, this isn't a super cheap yarn. Like I forget how much this yarn costs, but it's, I don't know, like $7 or $8. So I mean, it's not super cheap. Like it's not, I mean, I guess it is decently cheap for sock yarn, but like, you know, it's like just put a little bit of care into it and make it not full of knots and poorly dyed sections. I don't know. It's just really frustrating to me. But yeah, this is the colorway. It is 001. It's not gonna, I don't know why it's not focusing on that. And we apparently are hitting the perfect storm of background noise because that was the dryer that just went off and Wesley just opened up the door and came in. So yeah. But yeah, so I have one more row of this and then I will be onto the main body of the sock. And I'm knitting this on my US 1.5s, which are 2.5 millimeter needle. And these are a new pair for me. It's a pair that I got for my birthday, and these are the Knitter's Pride Dreams that I'm trying out to see how I like them. And I mean, so far I'm having a little bit of a tough time with them, but I think that might be the yarn, not the needles. But I've also never knit with like wood sock needles before, so I think that I need to just kind of adjust to that a little bit. So yeah, that's my works in progress and finished object. So let's see what's coming up next. Coming up next is the Hermione's Everyday Socks, because now we're moving out of color work and we're moving into kind of the sock yarn isn't just for socks / anything but vanilla sort of knitting. So, oh my gosh. People with their music in their cars. Anyway, so I'll be doing those sort of vanilla latte socks, and then I'm going to be making a pair of Hermione's Everyday Socks with this yarn from PhD Yarns. It is Dissertation with Nylon, so it's an 80-20 superwash merino nylon blend. And this is the Quantum Dot colorway 1111. It's this sort of blue quantum dot colorway, and then it's got this sort of turquoise and pink for contrasting heels and toes. So yes, that will be Hermione's everyday socks, which I think will work well with sort of a speckly yarn like this. And then after that, I don't know what I have coming up. I forgot to check. Let's see. Can I bring it up quickly on my computer? Probably not. Boop, boop. Super entertaining podcasting. So then the next thing in my queue is the broken linen stitch socks, which I actually see the yarn that I want to use for that. So I will grab that so I can show the yarn I want to use for that. Again, super, super entertaining podcasting. I'm the best. Woohoo! Okay. So then this is the yarn that I want to use for those broken linen stitch socks, which is my yarn from chitchat Designs. This is the colorway Drunken Rainbow, and this is a 75-25 superwash BFL nylon blend. And I think this will work really well with sort of the broken linen stitch pattern. I've made those before with Patton's Croy FX in the clover colors, of course. And I've really liked them, so I'm excited to do another pair of them. But yeah, that's what's coming up next. And let's see. Let's talk a little bit about the knit along. So we have 16 finished objects, and unless someone gets in before the end of the day tomorrow, that's going to be probably it for the colorwork knit along. Unfortunately, I will have to get this episode uploaded before I close the thread, so I can't announce the winner here. But I will make sure to, I'm going to let them know anyway before next week, but I'll be sure to announce it next week when I record. But I can show off the completed prize because I got the rest of it in the mail. So I've been showing this off. This is the yarn for the prize. This is a skein that I dyed on episode whatever number it is. And this is a 75-25 superwash BFL nylon, and it was dyed with Kool-Aid with just like a whole bunch of different ones, and it's kind of this really nice reddy orangey color that I'm really quite pleased with. And then I got the project bag to go along with it. So this comes from PhD Yarns, because we know I love them, and it is sort of this geeky themed project bag that I really just thought was super cute. And it has like chemistry stuff up along the top, and then like mathy physics sort of stuff along the bottom. And on the inside, it has just this really sort of simple kind of like cross stitch sort of pattern. And it's, let's see, for comparison, this is how big it is compared to a skein. So it's like a good size for like a sock project, or maybe like a 2 skein shawl project, nothing very big. And it's a drawstring sort of bag. So like that, which I like. Like I've had, zippered bags, and I've had drawstring sort of bags, or used and been around them. And I think both are great, because the nice thing about these bags is there's no zipper to catch on anything. So that's always kind of nice. But, and you can kind of like cinch it shut a little bit, but still have the yarn coming out if you want to like keep animals or something away from the ball of yarn inside. So yeah, that's that. And then whatever else I decide to stuff in the bag and mail out. So pretty awesome, pretty excited about that. Yeah, so let's talk about the next knit along then. So that will be starting basically the day that this episode goes live. So our last knit along for the year is sort of the theme of sock yarn isn't just for socks, but it can also be for socks too. So the theme of this whole knit along, right, I'm going to kind of talk about it in 2 parts. So you can do socks, obviously, right? Most of what I'm going to be doing is socks. And if you're going to be doing socks, they have to kind of follow all the same rules that we've been using. So they have to be adult size, they have to be of a reasonable height, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And they just have to be anything but vanilla, right? So it just cannot be a plain vanilla sock. It can be a ribbed sock, it can be a sock with like a basic little cable on it, right? It can be anything, just not vanilla. So that's it for socks. Boom, done. So that's that. And then for the other half of it, right? So the other half is basically everything else, right? Everything else you can do with sock yarn. So if you want to knit a hat, if you want to knit like fingerless mitts or mittens or gloves or a shawl or shawlette or a cowl or whatever, right? Anything else that you can do with a fingering weight yarn. So like I have some skeins of fingering weight yarn that have no nylon in them, so I don't want to use them for socks. So I will be making probably a couple of hats over this time if I, get the time to actually do that. But like that kind of stuff, right? So the other half is kind of for things where it's like, oh my gosh, I have this sock yarn, but it's either, not quite robust enough for socks, or it's just too pretty to be for socks. It's for those things, right? It's for those other things that you can do with sock yarn. And those kind of are going to follow a lot of the same rules as the other stuff, right? It has to be a reasonably sized project. Like it has to be the majority of a skein of yarn. So I don't want anyone making little ornaments and submitting little ornaments as finished objects, right? It has to be like a decent sized thing. So like a pair of hand warmers or a pair of mittens or an entire hat or, something like that. Like it has to be decently sized. It has to be for an adult, right? So again, no little baby mittens, no baby hats, stuff like that. You could make a baby sweater though. If you want to make a baby sweater, I don't know if that's something people make out of fingering weight yarn, but I will take baby sweaters because that is, a decently sized project. And I want to knit a baby sweater, but I don't know any babies, so maybe I need to find someone who has babies because I just think baby sweaters are so cute and they're so little. Anyway, right, so it has to be adult sized other than like baby sweater kind of a thing. Yeah, otherwise, the same rules has to be started and finished within the time of the knit along. So between November 1st and the end of the day, December 31st, has to have a picture with it, put it in the FO thread, all that cool stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited because I think this will be a great time for a lot of us to just get a lot of knitting done. And it definitely opens up the doors to people who are doing like holiday knitting, gift knitting and stuff. Like, maybe they're not making a pair of socks or something, or maybe they are making a pair of socks, but it doesn't fit in like with a theme, right? It's just sort of just a little bit above vanilla pair of socks, right? So I want lots of entries for this one. I want lots of people joining in. So yeah, that's going to be that. And I'm super excited. So by the time you guys see this, I will probably have the threads open on Ravelry, but just in case I'm a little bit slow, they will for sure be open, by the end of this first week of November. But things are a little bit busy right now, which I'll talk about in the chit chat section. So if they don't get opened up right away, just know that it's happening. I just need to get around to it. But yeah, so that's the knit along news. And then let's see, question of the week last week, I talked about what book recommendations would you make, which got some really great responses. And I'm super excited to check out some of those books and like grow my knitting library a little bit more. And then my question of the week this week is sort of, I don't know, maybe this is a weird question, but like I thought about this today. So my question of the week this week is, how do you store your knitting needles? And so for me, I don't have a lot of knitting needles other than sort of my couple of pairs that I use a lot. Other than that, like I have like a couple pairs of bigger ones, but I maybe have less than 5 pairs of other knitting needles other than my sock needles. And like one of those pairs is on a project right now. So like that tends to be how I store my knitting needles, is on active projects. But, like with my sock needles, I'm not always using all the sizes all the time, right? Like my size 0s are the size that I'm typically not using. Like it's pretty rare that I'm willing to knit a pair of socks on size 0s. So like when I am not using them, I just put them back in their package. And because I always use a pair of circulars, I just coil both up together and put them in the package like that. So my question is, how do you kind of store your commonly used knitting needles when they're not being used, right? The ones that you don't necessarily want to have put away or anything, that you want to kind of have active. Do you store them in their little packages, or do you have like a nice little case? I used to have a case for mine, but I don't think... It's either at home or I got rid of it. I can't remember which one, but I used to have this big kind of roller case for it, like rollout case, which I liked until I started using mostly circulars. Then when I started using mostly circulars, it got to be not a very useful way to store them. So it was a great way to store straight needles, not a great way to store circulars. So yeah, how do you store your needles? Pictures are always welcome. But yeah, I think that's actually going to be it. I think this is going to be a little bit shorter episode this week because I have a lot to get done still today. And like I said, it's getting late in the day. So that'll be it for the knitting sort of stuff. So if that's all you're here for, thank you very much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week. Otherwise, let's talk about some chit chat stuff, which I will try to keep short because, like I said, I have things to go do. All right, so the past week has just been crazy busy. Work has just been very busy. I had a lot of grading to catch up on. So, we had that long weekend, the weekend before this weekend. We had that nice long weekend where I got no grading or anything done. So I had a lot of grading to catch up on, especially because we have a TA who's gone right now. He's kind of on an extended trip right now. And so the way that I was able to convince other TAs to cover his labs was by promising to grade those labs, right? So that all they had to do was just show up for the 2 hours and be there, which means that I have an additional 2 labs worth of grading to do. So that's been kind of tough. And then, we had another TA who wasn't able to make it in for his lab, so I had to teach one of his labs this past week. And so it's just been a very busy week at work. I just felt like I did not have a lot of time for anything. And then on top of that, my homework for the stats class I'm taking has just been taking forever. I don't remember if I complained about this last week or not, but it's just super frustrating because this homework just takes so long to do. And it's not as if it's that hard. It just takes so long. And that's just really frustrating to me. So, I was trying to get homework done and all of that. And then again, I also don't know if I mentioned that I'm working on a project in this class, which is a group project, which is my least favorite kind of project. So I've also been trying to get that done, and it's due on Wednesday, but it's due Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's essentially due end of the day Tuesday. And trying to get my group motivated to work on it is just proving to be really difficult. Which I get, they all have other things to be doing, and they're all taking more classes than I am. This is my only class, but at the same time, it's kind of well, hey guys, I work full time, and I'm not complaining about this. Let's just get it done. But just trying to get them to do anything is like pulling teeth. So that's been kind of frustrating. And that's actually what I need to get done today. I need to kind of get the report started so that they will all kind of hurry up and get working on it. What I've been finding is that if I get something started or tell people what to do, then they'll do it. But until then, it just is taking forever. So yeah, so there's been that. And then I have another homework assignment due for that class on Tuesday. And then I have a test for that class, not Monday as in the day before this episode goes live, but tomorrow to me. But then the Monday after, Monday, November 7th, I think, we have a test. So it's just ugh. So I've been having all of that, and then I've just been, just a lot to do at work, and it's kind of going to be that way this week too, where I just have a lot to get done, and I'm just not really looking forward to it. So yeah, that's kind of been my week. It's, like I said, it's been really warm here today and the past couple of days. Wesley and I had meant to go up to King's Dominion this weekend, kind of one last time to see the Halloween stuff, and that just didn't happen. Which, is fine. Neither of us is super into sort of that Halloween stuff. We're both not really into, haunted houses and, the scary stuff. So we mostly just wanted to go and kind of observe it. But that means that if we can't go, neither of us are brokenhearted about it. So, and, we're just in general not really big into Halloween. We didn't do any Halloween parties or anything. I like the Halloween sort of season and all of that. But the whole, Halloween's in particular celebrations, I'm just kind of meh about. I did eat a whole bunch of candy corn though before I recorded because, candy corn season only comes once a year, and when it's gone, and that will be sad. But yeah, otherwise, it's been a busy weekend. I had to go up to campus yesterday to get some work done, and then today I was trying to just get everything else done, so I've been doing laundry and trying to get food prepped for the week, and it's just exhausting. It's just exhausting being an adult, and I don't enjoy it at all. But yeah, and it's really boring. I'm sitting here trying to think of what did I do this past week, and it's just so boring because all I can think of is I worked and I slept, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, super boring. And I feel as though I'm getting rambly, even though I've only been talking for a couple minutes. But yeah, that's how boring my week's been. I just, this afternoon, I just watched Zootopia, which if you haven't seen it, I think is a super cute movie, and I highly recommend that everyone watch it. I think it's probably a great kids movie, but it's also a good adults movie because obviously no kids, so adult. I thought it was super funny, super cute, lots of like adult sort of jokes, but that it's not like it'd be inappropriate for kids either. So yeah, highly recommend. It's on Netflix right now. Wesley and I also watched, we rented The Huntsman, Winter's War or something. It's like the second The Huntsman movie, which is kind of like this like retelling of the Snow White fairy tale. So we rented that one last night, which was okay. It was nice to watch for, $1.50 from Redbox. I don't know that I would have been happy had I gone to see it in theaters. Like, it just wasn't like spend $20 on tickets good, but it was, spend $1.50 on a rental good. Which reminds me, I have to get that back to the Redbox before I get charged for it again. But yeah, that's kind of it. Life is kind of boring for me right now, which is, sometimes I'm okay with it, but like right now I'm not really okay with it because it's not boring in like everything's just cruising along way. It's boring in I'm not managing my time very well, and so I'm just like busier than I should be sort of way. But hey, what can you do? But yeah, I think that's going to be it. I'm going to go and try and get some stuff done for homework and all of that, and convince Wesley to go with me to the grocery store and pick up some rice because, I said I went and got groceries. The one thing I can't get by myself is rice because we buy rice like in these big 10-pound bags. And like when I'm trying to carry home all the other groceries, also having to lug home a 10-pound bag of rice, not fun. So I told him he would have to come with me to the grocery store, and I have to go return the bread box. So yeah, I'm gonna go do that, stop being boring. Thanks very much for hanging out with me this week. Sorry it's so short. Hopefully it'll be longer next week. Who knows? But yeah, thanks very much, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.